What is the cost of a lie? No, I'm not talking about those social lies, the polite excuse to get out of a commitment. I'm talking about the fundamental lie, the one you don't tell others but tell yourself. The lie that, if exposed, threatens to bring down the entire house of cards you call your reality. What is the price you pay to keep that lie alive, one day at a time? In the acclaimed and terrifying story of Chernobyl, this question stops being a philosophical exercise and becomes a death sentence, with a cost measured in human lives and centuries of contamination. What most people don't realize when they look back at that April night is that the most devastating catastrophe didn't begin with the reactor explosion. The real explosion, the one that started everything, was psychological. It was the silent boom that happens inside our head when the truth becomes so ugly, so absolutely unbearable, that our mind, in a desperate act of self-preservation, chooses to lie.
We're going to use this story as our laboratory, a high-pressure simulator to dissect one of the most powerful and invisible villains living inside your mind and mine. The mechanism of denial. Picture the plant supervisor, the archetype of the expert in charge. Faced with chunks of graphite scattered on the ground outside, the physical, irrefutable proof that the reactor core was exposed to the sky, he looks at his subordinates and, with a certainty bordering on madness, declares, "The reactor cannot explode."
Why does he do that? He's not an ignorant man, he's an experienced engineer. But in that moment, logic is hijacked by panic. The most effective persuasion engine in the world is the one our own brain uses against us. Admitting that the reactor exploded is not just acknowledging a technical error. It's admitting the end of his career, his reputation, his identity, and maybe even his life. It is the total collapse of his world. And our brain, acting like a primitive, overprotective bodyguard, triggers an emergency protocol to prevent that collapse. It simply denies reality. It filters the world so that it fits the story we need to tell ourselves to survive the next minute. Have you ever gone through this? Maybe not on a nuclear scale, but in a career decision you kept postponing, in a relationship that was clearly over, or in a project that was sinking from every angle. That nagging little voice in the back of your mind that whispers, "No, it can't be that bad. There must be another explanation." That is confirmation bias in action, a loyal accomplice of denial. It makes us desperately search for any tiny shred of evidence that supports our comfortable lie, while we ignore the mountain of proof screaming the opposite. It's a software bug installed in all of us, an evolutionary inheritance designed to protect us from shock. The problem is that in today's complex world, that protection can become our greatest strategic weakness. What you're about to discover now may surprise you. In Chernobyl, that first lie, that fundamental denial born from one man's panic, didn't stay contained. It behaved like a virus. A psychological virus that started to spread through the control room, through the plant's corridors, and within a few hours, infected the entire chain of command. That lie became the foundation for an even bigger disaster. A monster made not of radiation, but of bureaucracy, fear, and silence. Stay with me until the end, because understanding how that individual denial turned into systemic paralysis is the key to unlocking our own ability to make critical decisions under pressure and to use the psychology of influence in our favor instead of becoming its victims. After all, if one man's denial was the spark, what happened when that spark met the vast, highly flammable fuel of bureaucracy and collective fear? The psychological explosion was only just beginning. That initial lie, born of panic, doesn't dissipate. On the contrary, it hardens. It becomes the official version, the only narrative allowed. And like a virus, it spreads silently from one mind to another, moving up the chain of command. Every person who repeats it is not just passing along false information. They're buying an insurance policy for themselves, protecting themselves from responsibility, joining the pact of silence. One man's denial becomes the paralysis of an entire system, a domino effect of decisions based not on reality, but on the fear of facing it. It is a web that grows denser and stronger with every hour that passes. And before we dive into this web of cascading decisions, I want to hit pause for a moment. Because this story, however distant and extreme it may seem, touches on something deeply human. Something that, in some way, you may already have felt on your own skin. The pressure to agree, the fear of being the only dissenting voice in a room, the dangerous comfort of accepting a convenient truth. If this reflection on the power of denial and the weight of truth is resonating with you, if something I've said so far has touched you or reminded you of a situation, share it in the comments. It doesn't have to be a full story. It can be a word, a feeling, a realization. I really want to know what you're thinking, because every comment here adds another layer to our analysis and turns this space from a monologue into a rich, collective conversation. You know, when you like this video, you're doing more than saying you enjoyed it. You're sending a powerful signal that this conversation matters, that this applied psychology deserves to be seen by more people who may, right now, be trapped in their own small denials. Your participation here, your simple act of liking and, of course, subscribing if you haven't yet, is the fuel that allows me to keep diving deep into these case studies and building this ideas laboratory. It's what makes this community grow and this message go further. Thank you deeply for your support. Now, let's return to that meeting room in Pripyat. The initial lie has been told. The virus of denial is in the air. What happens when the power of bureaucracy steps in to manage the crisis? That's when the psychology of disaster takes on even darker, more revealing contours. We step into the backstage of the collective mind. The initial lie, now validated by the silence of superiors, triggers a perverse domino effect. It is no longer about one individual's decision. It is about the inertia of an entire system. Every phone call, every rushed report, every closed-door meeting has a hidden objective. It is not to solve the crisis. It is to control the narrative. And here, one of the most potent poisons of organizational psychology is born: diffusion of responsibility. It sounds like a complex concept, but you know it very well. It's the mindset of, that's not my job. Someone above me has to decide. I'm just following orders. When responsibility belongs to everyone, in practice it belongs to no one. Each link in the chain waits for the next to take the impact of the truth, and the result is collective paralysis, a tacit complicity where the greatest crime is being the bearer of bad news. This is the hidden truth behind many major corporate and governmental failures. The system was built to protect itself, not to correct itself. Now I want to go even deeper into this, because this systemic paralysis is not just passive. It becomes actively hostile to the truth. The system starts to manufacture its own reality, one in which the problem is contained, where heroes are the ones who remain calm, and villains are those who cause panic with inconvenient facts. This is a dangerous path for any group mindset. Critical decisions are postponed not for minutes, but for long, precious hours and days, while the real physical catastrophe keeps expanding in deadly silence. The impact of this inaction is exponential. It's a frightening transformation in which logic is subverted, and loyalty to the system becomes more important than loyalty to the facts. And in this theater of the absurd, the very structure of power becomes the greatest threat, a sleeping giant that crushes anyone who tries to wake it with the uncomfortable revelations of reality. If this behind-the-scenes analysis of mind and power resonated with you, comment this: the hidden truth. But what happens when, in the middle of this perfectly tuned orchestra of denial and bureaucracy, a solitary, external voice decides to play a completely different note? A note based on facts, not fear. This is the moment in our journey through the mind's backstage when a new figure appears, the archetype of the specialist. He doesn't show up like an action hero with a magical solution. He represents logic, cold reason, and raw data walking into an arena dominated by emotion and politics. His first battle is not against invisible radiation, but against a much more entrenched enemy, the wall of denial raised by a committee.
He walks into the room not with opinions, but with facts. He points to the evidence right in front of everyone's eyes. The eerie glow in the sky that is not a normal fire, the chunks of graphite on the ground that could only have come from one place, the exposed core of the reactor. He presents the hidden truth in its purest form. And the response he gets is not a debate, not a request for more data. It is a wall, a simple, powerful statement. That's impossible. It's the immune system of denial attacking the antigen of truth.
Now I want to go even deeper into this because what we are witnessing here is one of the most important, least understood principles in the psychology of influence. the specialist makes a mistake we all make. He assumes facts speak for themselves. He doesn't understand that, for that committee, his facts are not information. They are an attack on their authority, their stability, and the comfortable narrative they built to survive those first hours of panic. The impact of his data is filtered through cognitive dissonance, the mental pain we feel when new information collides with our deepest beliefs. And to reduce that pain, it is much easier to attack the information than to rebuild your entire mindset. This scene shows us, in brutal detail, that under pressure, objective truth rarely beats convenient truth. If you've ever felt that logic alone doesn't win a battle of ideas, comment this: reason needs strategy. That brings us to an uncomfortable and powerful truth about decisions and human influence. If facts are only the starting point and not the weapon of victory, what is the real currency of persuasion? What does it take to shift the mindset of people who refuse to see? The answer lies in one of the brightest revelations this story gives us. When the specialist realizes that the wall of denial is impenetrable to a frontal attack of facts, he makes a brilliant tactical shift. He stops arguing about the past. He abandons the debate over what exploded. That battle is lost, not because he is right, but because his opponents cannot afford to admit he is right.
Instead, he focuses all his energy on painting a vivid, terrifying picture of the future. The conversation shifts from "the core exploded" to "the sand and boron mixture under the burning reactor will melt, seep into the water tanks, and trigger a thermal explosion that will eject nuclear material across Eastern Europe, making the continent uninhabitable for centuries." He changes the scale of fear. This is persuasion's secret weapon in action, the technique of reframing.
Now I want to go even deeper into this because what he does here is a masterclass in psychological judo. He doesn't try to eliminate the fear that was paralyzing the committee. He grabs it, amplifies it, and redirects it. He takes the diffuse personal fear they felt, "I'll lose my job, my reputation, my life," and replaces it with a much bigger, more concrete, universal fear. "We will destroy millions of lives and go down in history as the ones responsible for the apocalypse." By doing this, he is not selling a solution. He is redefining their reality so that his solution becomes the only logical escape route. He puts them at a crossroads where denial becomes visibly more painful and catastrophic than action. The impact is immediate. The group's mindset is forced out of defense mode into problem-solving mode, and the specialist stops being a threat and becomes the only guide in the dark. If the idea that how we present the truth can be more important than the truth itself made you think, comment this: perspective changes everything. This is a master tactic for influencing decisions and forcing transformation in a crisis. But what happens when the task you need people to perform goes beyond logic, fear, or self-interest? What happens when you need to persuade men to voluntarily walk into mortal danger for a greater cause? This is where persuasion reaches its highest level and enters the territory of leadership and inspiration. We reach the peak of the journey, the moment when the narrative shows leaders needing to convince miners to dig a tunnel beneath a melting reactor, or men to run across a rooftop poisoned by radiation. Here, the logic of fear doesn't work. Fear is the default state. Threats are useless. What can be done?
The answer is a complete transformation in the nature of the request. The conversation stops being transactional and becomes existential. The narrative reframes a suicidal order into a historic mission. The question becomes, which of you will step forward to save millions of people you will never meet? This appeals to something deeper than the survival instinct: purpose.
Now I want to go even deeper into this because this strategy taps into a hidden truth about motivation. It is not manipulation, it is alignment. In that moment, the leaders offer something money cannot buy: the chance to have an immortal impact, to take part in something bigger than their own lives. They offer a legacy. By doing that, they are not issuing an order. They are extending an invitation to a heroic journey. And that shift in mindset is the key. Decisions stop being about personal risk and become about identity. What kind of person am I? Someone who hides, or someone who sacrifices for a greater good? The most powerful persuasion doesn't tell people what to do. It helps them decide who they want to be. If the idea that purpose can overcome even our most primitive fears inspires you, comment this. Purpose moves mountains. This ability to inspire heroic transformation is the apex of influence. But it raises a fundamental question. For men to trust you with their own lives, is inspiration alone enough? Or is there another ingredient just as essential?
The answer is the pillar that holds up purpose-driven persuasion: radical honesty. The narrative makes this crystal clear in the scene of the liquidators who had to climb onto the most dangerous rooftop in the world. Leadership makes no empty promises. There is no "everything will be fine." The instruction is brutally clear. You have exactly 90 seconds. Run, do what needs to be done, and come back. Not 1 second more. In that sharp honesty, there is a subliminal message. For the first time, the system stops lying. It stops treating its men like ignorant pawns and gives them the only thing they still have left: the raw truth.
Now I want to go even deeper into this, because this attitude disarms all resistance. In an environment poisoned by distrust, an act of radical transparency has a disproportionate impact. It shocks the system. Paradoxically, by admitting the terrible truth, leadership earns the trust that false optimism never could. People handle horrible reality far better than the suspicion of being deceived. The hidden truth is that trust is not a byproduct of good news. It is a byproduct of honesty, especially when the news is bad. And this shared reality, however terrible, is what allows the toughest decisions to be made. If the idea that harsh truth is often the safest path to trust resonated with you, comment this. Truth disarms. Up to now, we've dived deep into denial, bureaucracy, fear-based persuasion, and redemption through truth and purpose. The question is, how do we use these lessons as tools in our own lives? The transformation begins here. The first step is not changing the world, but installing a firewall against your own mind's worst impulses. For that, I want to introduce your first antidote, the pre-mortem. The name sounds dark, but its purpose is to illuminate. It is a counterintuitive technique designed to eliminate the stubborn supervisor archetype inside all of us. The goal is to never again be the person who looks at evidence and says, "That's impossible." Here's how it works. Before a major decision or important project, gather your team or sit alone and ask this. Imagine we are 6 months ahead and this project has completely failed. Total disaster. Why? What went wrong? Now I want to go deeper into this because this question has enormous psychological impact. It flips our mindset. In a normal planning meeting, criticizing the group's idea is a social risk. You seem negative or pessimistic. The pre-mortem legalizes pessimism. It gives explicit permission to look for flaws. Suddenly, the smartest person is the one who finds the most devastating risk. This technique short-circuits confirmation bias and attacks groupthink. One of leadership's greatest revelations is this: you must build systems that protect ideas even from yourself. If looking at failure to build success opened your mind, comment, "Antidote activated." This is powerful, but the pre-mortem is prevention. What about when the disaster is real and present, ignored by a culture of fear and bureaucracy? You need the second antidote. It is not a technique, but a mindset, the principle of extreme ownership. Put simply, be the owner of the problem. If you saw the problem is yours. It now lives in your mental inventory. This doesn't mean you fix it alone. It means you take 100% responsibility to ensure it doesn't die in bureaucratic oblivion. Your job is to carry it, articulate it, and escalate it intelligently until it reaches someone who can truly solve it. You become the guardian of that hidden truth. Now, I want to go deeper into this because this mindset drives all meaningful change. This was the scientist's journey in our story. He wasn't asked to be the owner of the problem, but he became one. Chernobyl stopped being a task and became a burden he carried into meetings, helicopters, and the halls of power. He embodied urgency.
And that is why his persuasion became so powerful. People weren't listening to a distant expert. They were listening to a man carrying the weight of the world. True authority doesn't come from a job title. It comes from courage to take responsibility.
If you're ready to adopt this mindset, comment, "The problem is mine." With the pre-mortem and extreme ownership, we have a psychological first aid kit. But what is the final lesson this story leaves us? The answer takes us back to the beginning. What is the cost of a lie? Chernobyl answers brutally, the cost of a lie is everything. The initial lie didn't contain the disaster, it amplified it. It created fertile ground for denial, bureaucracy, and incompetence to turn an accident into a global catastrophe. That first lie multiplied into a cascade of bad decisions, costing lives, health, and the trust of a generation. That is the dark legacy of lies. But the story also shows the cost of truth. And truth is not free. It demands courage, sacrifice, and extraordinary persuasion to be heard. Now I want to go deeper, because the final lesson is the most important. After exploring denial, reframing, and purpose, the ultimate revelation is this: the most powerful persuasive tool in existence is truth. But not cold truth thrown like a weapon. Truth wrapped in purpose, delivered with empathy for the listener. Truth meant not just to prove a point, but to inspire transformation. If this journey made you reflect on truth's power and price, comment this: the truth has a price. This is Chernobyl's final echo. The pursuit of truth and the ability to communicate it is not just an influence strategy. It is the greatest responsibility of a leader, a professional, and a human being. If you made it to this point, thank you. This was a deep journey, and your presence here tells me you, like me, want to understand the backstage of the human mind. Before we finish, I want to leave a reflection. What small problem at work or in life have you seen everyone ignore, quietly risking turning into a disaster? If you feel comfortable, share in the comments. We can learn a lot from each other. And to let me know you completed the journey, comment: Journey complete. That's our code, a signal that you're one of the people who truly dive deep. If this conversation made sense to you, your like is the most direct way to show it. And if you believe analyses like this matter, consider subscribing so you don't miss upcoming investigations. This kind of deep dive into major events is what we love doing here. If you want to explore another fascinating case study about the psychology behind critical decisions, the perfect video is right here on the side. Just click, and our journey continues.